Interesting. We're now joined by journalist Julie Cook, who says that many people aren't able to recognise the difference between drinking in moderation and having a problem. Meanwhile, my old mucker, former Top Gear presenter Steve Berry, believes that boozing is just part and parcel of our culture. Julie, let's start with you. Welcome both. Do you think... I mean, I just want to make a difference here. Nick made it earlier. Binge drinking or a drink problem? There's a difference, isn't there?
Well, there is, but I wouldn't say we're a nation with a problem. I'd say we're a nation of alcoholics who don't realise they are. I really would. I speak from personal experience. When I was 13, I started drinking. I was nicking my dad's beer, and I went on to be a full-blown, really bad, quite addicted binge drinker. And yes, it was only at weekends, but I knew I had a problem. And in 2019, I stopped, and I now haven't had a drink since then. But I think you only have to look at the statistics of A&E, emergency departments, Friday night, Saturday night, when paramedics have so much more of a harder time because of drinking. We are a nation that can't hold our drink. And it isn't just, oh, I'm a bit tipsy. This is affecting massive parts of our lives, socially, health-wise, and lots of other things.
And Steve, how would you respond to that? You say that it's part and parcel of British culture, but you must accept it's gone a little bit too far.
No, I can't say we've got a problem, and compared to who? I'm lucky, my job's taken me all over the world. I've travelled a lot in Eastern Europe. I've been to Moscow. Have you ever been to Moscow and drunk with Russians? Have you ever been for a night out in Tokyo with a load of journalists and seen the drinking there? It's not just us. I was drinking with some Ukrainian friends, and they were drinking neat vodka. They were pouring it in the glass like it was Ribena. He handed me a glass of neat vodka. I said no, and his mate said, probably in Russian, but you're not supposed to say that, are you? His mate said, why don't you give him half wine and half vodka like you'd give to a lady or an old person? We're not the only ones. People drink all over the world.
I've no doubt that that is the case, that people do drink all over the world. But the statistics show, this latest report says that, you know, children under the age of even 13 are the worst drinkers or the biggest drinkers globally.
I drank at 13. I worked at 13 and I bought my beer, which older lads went and got for us because that's the way it was, with the money that I earned working on Bury Market. You grow up quick if you're working class in the UK. And one of the reasons that you do that is because you want money. And you want money. And one of the reasons you want money is so you can buy alcohol. It's just a rite of passage. We just do it a bit younger. I gave my kids alcohol when they were children. Now they're in the 30s. 2 don't drink, 1 drinks. No, none of them are a problem. Because when they were kids, I thought, let's do it the continental way. Let's do it like they're in Spain and France. Kids, if you want a bit of wine with your meal, you can have it.
Yeah. How old, Stevie? How old? What age?
When they were kids, when they were like 5, 6, do you want a little bit of wine with what? Do you want a bit of wine? Yeah, I don't like it. And they never touch it. 2 of my kids have never touched alcohol since they tried it as kids. One of them has a drink like me. We went in the pub the other day, and me and my lad, he's 30. I'm 60, he's 30. We played tennis, we went in the pub. I said, do you want a drink? He said, no, Dad, I don't fancy it. I said, do you know what? I don't fancy it either. We had a Coke instead. Tomorrow we might go in and have a pint.
And that's a healthy relationship, isn't it, Steve? But unfortunately, there are people who are perhaps predisposed to not being able to either handle their alcohol or become addicted to it. I thought it's really interesting what you said earlier, Julie, is that you nicked your first alcohol from your dad's drinks cabinet.
Rather than were given it, like Steve said about his kids.
Do you think that there was a kind of taboo around alcohol for you from a young age that meant that you sought it out later on in life?
Yeah, there was a certain naughtiness to it. I think, as Steve said, you know, there are parts I agree with what he just said, which is, you know, if you make it sort of a non-forbidden fruit, you might have a better relationship with it. Mine wasn't a forbidden fruit. My dad used to drink all the time. In fact, he was a very heavy drinker. But the point I'm making, I'm going back to what he just said about Russians. I'm married to a Romanian, and I've spent a lot of time in Eastern Europe, and it's true, they drink really badly. But Russian men, on average, they die in their 50s. I mean, they have a really low lifespan compared to us, particularly in rural areas where they, as you say, they drink neat vodka. So I know how the Eastern Europeans drink. I've seen it personally. But that doesn't mean it's okay that we still drink a lot. It doesn't mean it's okay compared to the worst in the world. And I think if you look at, as I've said, the accidents, the drink driving, violence, all the things that come as a result of alcohol, when it's drunk irresponsibly, we do have to look at that and why our kids are starting so young.
The point is, Steve, and I absolutely see what Julie's saying, is are all kids who start, either they nick it or they're giving it, are they all going to end up abusing alcohol? Are we creating a generation that won't be able to handle it and their behaviour is going to spiral out of control? Or is that just human nature? Because this is brilliant from Anthony, who says he's listening. In this case, kids are clearly more damn honest nowadays than us. I used to secretly go for booze with my mates and my parents didn't know, and I'm not an alcoholic. So I think isn't it down to the individual?
Yeah, absolutely. And here's the thing. I drink. I don't drink to excess. Yesterday, right, humble brag here, I did a 5-mile march with a £35 pack in 51 minutes, 13 seconds. Later that day, I went in a pub in Salford and had 2 pints of Cat's Ale. You can drink and be fit.
And do you know the most extraordinary thing about that story? You got out of that pub in Salford after 2 pints, OK, which is, in fact, a total shock.
Yeah.
Good man. Well, listen, but I also think Julie's story is relevant because there are people who will have a problem with it.
Yes.
We have to work out whether giving it causes it.
I totally understand Steve's argument that you can do perhaps everything in moderation or one day go out for a drink, another day have a soft drink. But unfortunately, there are people who aren't able to regulate their drink in the same way. And for those people, I think perhaps we do need a culture shift to say it is OK to go to the pub. I told a story earlier on the show, Julie, that I was pregnant last year and I used to pretend to drink alcohol or pretend I was having a gin and tonic when it was a lemonade because I didn't want people to know that I was pregnant. There was a presumption that if you're having a lemonade, there's something wrong with you, and that shouldn't be the case, should it?
Well, yeah, exactly. I think the presumption is if you're drinking lemonade, you're a recovering alcoholic. That's the trouble in this country because we're so used to drinking.
Yeah.
And I have to now explain to people when I don't drink, oh, well, I've stopped because I was a binge drinker and I knew how I had to stop. And I know that's not for everybody, but I just think we need to look at this carefully, why they're starting so young.